Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, pirates on the high seas. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with the second half of volume 112 of One Piece. We are in Elbaph. We've reunited with Saul and have seen that the children of Elbaph are going in a more academic direction, all except one, a young boy named Cullen, despite the fact that his mother Ripley is a teacher at the school. Usopp and Luffy are a bit disappointed though. They expected to see grand warriors in Elbaph, but everything's so chill. Well, be careful what you wish for, as two hooded figures appear in the castle of Elbaph. They set upon the guards, demanding to know where the accursed prince who killed his father, Loki, is. The very same Loki who made a deal with Luffy that should Luffy free him, they'll tell him where Shanks is. But at the banquet held in honor of the Straw Hats and their accomplishments for the warriors of Elbaph, Luffy is told by a myriad of people, beyond the legend of Nika whom he resembles, about Loki killing his father and all the terrible things he did. Worst of all, the two who have arrived are holy knights, well, God's Knight, and are looking to recruit Loki. Who are these two? A young girl named Gunko and Figurlin Shamrock, celestial dragons, with Shamrock being the older twin brother of Shanks. Loki got the crap beaten out of him, but he was determined not to join. And so, Shamrock and Gunko have decided to use the children to persuade Elbaph to come under the world government's control. Meanwhile, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, and Road, who is escorting them, head to Aura's castle, looking for the key to Loki's cuffs, only to meet none other than Skrrt, father of Cullen, lover of Ripley, the Mountain Eater, who says that if Luffy wants that key, you won't have to wrestle him for it. What'll happen next? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, we're starting off with One Piece chapter 1140, Skrrt, as read on tin. And, oh boy, Ogre Chow Yamato's Golden Harvest, Surrogate Pilgrimage, volume 26, Ulti, if anything happens to Pepe, I'll hunt you to the depths of hell and beat you to death. Why is he torturing these two? I mean, he did seem to enjoy kind of messing with them, but to be going this far, jeez. I guess maybe it's a situation where he wanted them to join him, since I think he had the highest bounty outside of the lead performers. Okay, well, we're doubling down on how much of a bastard Who's Who is. Alright, we pick up in the treasure room where Skrrt is taking the key with, I think it's Luffy saying, "How come we have to take the key from you? Just give it." While Rhodes says, "So yeah, what is the meaning of this?" And Skrrt just laughs. "What's wrong? Can't do it?" Luffy jumps out of Rhodes' hands saying, "Okay, that's it." Old Nami calls out Luffy, but then Zoro thinks back to Cullen's words saying, "My dad used to be a pirate. He can even hold his own against Elbaph warriors." So Zoro seems to be watching intently. Meanwhile, Luffy tries to reach out for the key, but in an instant, Skrrt dodges. Luffy seems to be a bit taken aback by this, and then tries to use his extendo arms to grab at the key, but Skrrt just dodges him nimbly. Oh man, just getting down. It's like, I haven't had to move like this in a while. Luffy then says, "Listen, oh man, I just want to get this Loki so I can go back to the feast." And Skrrt just says, "Just take it from me then." And Luffy says, "I will," reaching out his arm again, only for Skrrt to leap up. Oh, okay, I think Luffy used Future Sight as he says hockey, and in an instant, the back half of the key is infused with hockey. Oh, jeez. And Skrrt brings it down on Luffy in a very painful display. I think he destroys the platform that the key was originally resting on. Skrrt then makes his way across some of the giant treasure chests as Road calls out, "Wait, so yeah." While Luffy questions, "Are you kidding me, Luffy?" As Luffy bursts out of the rubble, Skrrt bounds away, saying, "That's a nifty straw hat you got there." And of course he recognizes it. Skrrt says, "It looked better on you than that helmet, I bet." Luffy then starts pretty much yelling, grabbing for the key, as he says, "Yeah, because it's the treasure I'm holding for Shanks. Now give me that key." And as Skrrt just easily dodges, and he is clowning on Luffy right now. Skrrt says, "You're only holding on to it. He didn't give it to you? A cheapskate." But Luffy actively grows angry, saying, "No, dummy, that's not what it means. Don't call Shanks a cheapskate. You have no idea about him." Oh my goodness, Luffy. Skrrt just laughs, and then he shoves the key into Luffy's mouth, saying, "You like to talk, boy." Oh man. Wow. Oh, Skrrt is just playing with an emperor. Well, he kind of handed over the key. As Luffy, I guess it was hit so hard he goes crashing through some rubble. But Zoro seems to really take interest. And he says, "Huh? Axes?" And Skrrt, just out of nowhere, just axes. I don't know where those come from. Skrrt then says, "Yaso tekeru." And then Luffy, it's like you could almost see a cold chill running down Luffy's spine. And just as Skrrt gets ready to attack, Zoro calls out, "Look out, Luffy!" And as Skrrt swings, Zoro steps in as this flurry of blade strikes just come bursting all in. Luffy dodges out of the way, and as Zoro blocks, but geez, most of the rest of the treasure room is utterly cut to ribbons, like a friggin' sickle weasel came rushing through, cutting up everything in sight. And no wonder he got the epitaph of Mountain Eater. Like, yeah, he could clean a mountain ball. Shoot, he probably cleaved several mountains in two onto pieces. Oh, geez. Speaking of which, part of the building gets utterly destroyed. Skrrt thinks to himself, he's got a good crew. Both Road and Nami are utterly shocked as Zoro goes three-sword style, and Luffy goes into gear fifth, now wielding the battle axe he had for a while. As he says, "Let's go, Zoro." Zoro says, "Yeah." And Skrrt peeks out from behind his Sunny, saying, "Indeed." Well, thinking to himself, "Indeed. All in white." Oh, were they in the part of the building that kind of collapsed? I guess probably so. Maybe. It's hard to say. Because as that part of the building hits the underworld, and as Zoro and Luffy go rushing in, Zoro says, "You're gonna get it now." I think Skrrt uses future sight and then immediately drops his axes, puts his hands up, saying, "I yield." They go rushing, crashing into the rubble behind him. Zoro says, "Stop playing games with us, old man." Skrrt says, "Don't get bent out of shape. It's just a joke." Luffy says, "You can't pass this off as a joke after you tried to kill us." Skrrt says, "And? Are you dead? The key you're after is in your possession." Luffy then notices, yeah, sure enough, the key is right behind him. See, I noticed that too. It's just like he kind of just gave Luffy the key in that instant when he shoved it in his mouth. Bro then says, "Ultra Rare Luffy, if you didn't know, this man is..." And as Skrrt picks up his Casa hat and his cloak, he says, "Don't get ahead of yourself, Rhoda. If Elbaph is still intact by the time you're leaving this island, come and see me again." Well, Zoro says, "Why we ever do that? I never want to see you again." And Luffy calls out, "Yeah, you idiot. Thanks for taking us to the key, though. We'll never meet again." Oh, God. A completely different relationship to the one with... a completely different relationship to the one with Rayleigh. Just utterly different. Though Skrrt was kind of messing with them, but dang. Skrrt just walks off smiling, thinking back to, I guess, the last time he met Shanks. He called out, "Wait, Shanks, what makes you think I'm going to trust this guy?" And Shanks told him, "Good point. Do as you will with him, Gaban." And Gaban looks back, smiling. We then cut back. I feel like I know where this is about to happen. What's about to happen here? As we cut back to the Walrus School, the kids cry out, "Teacher, teacher, teacher! Look, 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 look!" As I think it was Angie says, "What?" And then I think another teacher says, what is it? The kids call out, bird, 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 bird. Angie says, so? You see birds all the time. The kids say, it's a weird bird, bird, bird. These kids, I swear. Angie questions this, looking up to the sky, but she doesn't see anything, saying, where? Yeah, and last time we saw them, both Shamrock and Gunko were on that arrow bird she created. Would it technically be an aeroplane? Huh. I wonder. Oh, yeah. And as Gunko's she called it an arrow bird, but it really is more like an aeroplane, but they wouldn't know what a plane is. Oh. We cut to the sun world as Gunko and Shamrock land. Oh, they were surveilling. I think Shamrock says they even have a school. Gunko says, served up to us on a platter. I'll make the call. Shamrock says, go ahead. And as Gunko's sleeves unravel, revealing her hand, she clenches and she creates one of those pentagrams. Black lightning strikes down from the heavens towards the pentagram. I thought they were only summoning one. Is it two? One figure says, all right, fine. I'm willing to go. Just give me a minute. While another says, where are we leaving from? Where's the abyss? Abyss? What the heck? And wait, give me a minute. Aren't they already summoned? Yeah, two different people. Holy Knight, Shepherd family. Wait, Shepherd? Was it Jupiter? Oh, Shepherd Jupiter, right? I think that was it, right? Yeah, Shepherd Jupiter. Saint Somers and Holy Knight Remo Shifu family, Saint Killingham. What is he? Kind of makes me think of Brooke a little bit. Somers, who is chilling out in his cloak and his boxers and his wife beater, is on a Den Mushi call saying, I mean, aren't we supposed to get some time to change at least? Can we have an hour? What happens with the other thing? You know, the food situation? We're not letting God starve, are we? Hello? Weird, the signal's not working. Well, Killingham, who's wielding some funky looking kind of trident. Oh, he's actually wearing one of the bubbles. Okay. Most of the Holy Knights we've seen so far haven't worn the bubble helmets. I guess it's optional for a lot of the Holy Knights. Killingham says, uh-oh, I'm in trouble, big trouble. I'm late, I'm very late. I was half asleep. Where am I supposed to go again? Wait, where's the abyss? So they don't realize they've been transported, do they? Is that what it's called, an abyss? Their mode of transportation? Wait, but he was saying that, you go to it. I'm confused. It's kind of cute because Gunko blushes a little bit and looks away and then completely turns away as Somers says, huh? What is it, Gunko? Why are you in my house? Huh? Shamrock? And then Killingham is running in place, I think. And then they both kind of are shocked and they say, we're in Elbaph. Wait, were they told that, or did they only just realize that? Huh, okay. You see Killingham getting all his pants out of the little, clothing locker he had. Man, so it even transported stuff he had in his vicinity, too. That's interesting. Huh. Yeah, Somers is putting on his pants saying, who grabs my entire room, sofa included? I mean, really? Even he's taken off guard by that. While Killingham says, so this is the land of the giants. It's huge. While Shamrock questions, we only needed one. Why are there two of you? Oh, yeah, okay, so they did say they were only getting one other person. How did they end up with two people? Oh, Killingham says, because you're going back, Commander. Shamrock questions, I am? Killingham says, orders from above. Okay, so I was kind of questioning, are we actually going to encounter, was Luffy really going to encounter Shamrock? But I guess not. Dang. I guess we keep it a mystery for a little bit longer. So you're not going to really get to see how Shamrock stacks up against Luffy or how he could maybe compares to Shanks. Now Summers says, so that's the deal. Summers is still putting on his uniform. He says, yes, the situation in the Holy Land is rather dire. Yeah, he was talking on a Den Mushi about the food situation. Shamrock listens as Summers says, it's all gone wrong ever since the Reverie. Your presence there will be a benefit, Shamrock. So, what's the situation and the mission? What were you doing in this unaffiliated country? Okay, I can't, is it Summers who's questioning paying a visit to Harold's grave? Did they know Harold? I watched a few videos for around the time this was released, where people did kind of question why it seemed as though, because we saw that, actually, you know what, how do the pentagrams get made? Because Saturn was on the ship, and then he was able to transport himself to Elbaph. I mean, not to Elbaph, to Egghead. But it was assumed that he had to have at least been there to transport himself like that. And then he was able to transport the others, similar to how Gunko did it here. So there's a question of, did the Holy Knights know King Harold? Was he affiliated with them in some way, shape, or form? And with them saying paying a visit to Harold's grave, was he affiliated with them? Maybe King Harold wasn't as peace-loving a person as it seemed. Or maybe he was trying to get Elbaph affiliated with the world government. But it seemed like his process was a lot more different than with Neptune. It's hard to say. Is that maybe why Loki killed him? Because of his affiliation? Well, he's trying to gain affiliation with the world government? Well, Somers, now dressed, says, okay, got it. We see them overlooking the Walrus School as he says, you want us to kidnap some kids, take them to the Holy Land? They're too big to stuff into sacks, though. Actual kidnapping, killing him, who seems, did he fall asleep? Narcoleptic. He says, but those without the mark cannot travel through the abyss pentagrams. That means we'll have to sail them back. And then he dozes off. Gunko says, why you? Well, Shamrock says, with your powers, you can make it into a game. Much to the shock of the rest of them. Hey, yeah, through the abyss pentagram. But you have to have a mark on you. Because killing him has... Somers has... on his, I guess it would be his left elbow. Is that what allows him to go through the abyss? Wait a minute. The arm that Shanks is missing. Is he missing his left hand? He is. See, I always kind of wondered, Shanks losing his arm, because a lot of people have questioned, it's just like, Shanks losing his arm doesn't really make a lot of sense the way that he loses it. But what if... It was always a question of maybe Shanks wanted to lose his arm. Maybe it was intentional. It was more than just him trying to inspire Lucy. He was also doing something a little bit selfish. Did he maybe also have... Because have we ever seen Shanks's... When he was a kid, did he have a mark on him? I don't know. Nah, I think we've seen... when he was a kid. So maybe at some point he visited the Holy Land and got the Abyss mark on him? And maybe he was looking for a good way to get rid of it and saw an opportunity. Would he do something so drastic, though? To just allow the Lord of the Coast to just bite off his arm? Like, my God. But then again, if you could just be forcefully pulled through the abyss, I'm calling it an abyss. And this really feels like some black magic-ish. That's so wild. I wonder what their powers are. It's weird that Somers' guard for his sword is almost like vines, like thorns? I don't know. And it looks like he's got like a rose, so maybe he's got something like rose base. It brings out the rose whip, like Kurama in Yu Yu Hakusho, and killing him. Oh, he's full on got the scarf too. He's in a hybrid form. So is he like a mythical zone? What is he though? He kind of looks like a Kirin. That's the only thing I could think of, because he kind of looks like how I've seen Kirin depicted. Well, then again, I could just go to the next chapter and find out. Why am I sitting around like there's not another chapter to read? Alright, next chapter is chapter 1141, An Older Woman. Must be talking about Ripley, maybe? Meanwhile, we have Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest Surrogate Pilgrimage, Volume 27. Can't see through the tears of anger, which is talking about Ulti, as she is chained up probably with Sea Prism Stone. Swords thrown at her like at a dartboard. Who's Who looming over page 1, who's also chained, with a sword to page 1's neck, as all of Who's men chant, "Kill, kill, kill." Man, friggin'. You know what? Who doesn't need to be in charge of anything. This guy's a special kind of asshole. But I hope Yamato helps out. Because I will admit, I liked Ulti when she was first introduced. It was just something about Ulti and Luffy just literally bumping heads from jump. And the fact that they were actually pretty damn even, all things considered. Showing us that Ulti had a lot of power. I hope Yamato saves Ulti in page 1, and they both kind of team up, because they were the most interesting of the Tobiroko. Aside from Sasaki, who I kept thinking it was going to be revealed that he was Kokoro's son, and that's why he was fighting Frankie. It was going to turn out that Chimney's dad, she said he was a pirate somewhere out there. I kept thinking we were going to have a revelation about that, but most SBSs that I've read up on so far, I haven't gone too far because I don't want spoilers, but most that I've read haven't brought it up, and I'm just like, dang, I really thought maybe that was going to be a plot point. There's a lot of stuff from Wano where I'm just like, I thought one thing and none of it happened, and it's not so much to make me want to drop One Piece or anything like the goodness, no, I'm never like that. But it was kind of a bummer that so many things just did not happen in Wano like I kind of hoped. Jumping in, you pick up with, Road is transporting the Luffy, Zoro, and Nami. I think it's them. Or, no, I think it's only Nami. And the 2 guards who were injured, as Nami rants, "Gigantic diamonds, gold ingots, pearls. Those are the only reason I walked around that stupidly enormous castle." Road thinks to himself, "Ultra rare Nami, don't bring that up." Well, Nami shouts, "What do I care about this Loki monster or whatever?" Well, one of the guards says, "Loki, diamonds?" Road tells him, "Nothing, ignore her. What you two need right now is rest." Road, you may have started out as a creep and a weirdo, and you might still be that to a certain degree, but you have been a fun addition to this little adventure. Well, Road thinks to himself, maybe take it easy with the hot button. Where is Ultra Rare Nami? Well, Nami just shouts, "I want treasure!" And Road thinks, Ultra Rare Nami. We then cut back over to the Atom Tree tour with Frankie and Ripley, as Frankie says, "There's more to see than I even imagined," as Ripley explains. So as you can tell, we live in the branches of this enormous tree, each of which has its own long history. Oh, each branch has its own history, dang. Makes sense, it's so old. But they see one that seems to be cut off and kind of hollowed out to a certain degree. Frankie saying, "Whoa, what's this one?" Ripley explains, "Long ago, there was a village called Hugin on that branch." A whole village, dang. Yeah, I mean, Ripley looks like an ant on one of the branches. Like, my God. Actually seeing that scale and knowing, oh, dude, that is insane. Ripley looks that small. And then to think that Frankie's even smaller than that. And the branches are that big. God, that's wild. Man, I've seen world trees and stuff before, but man, to make even a giant look dwarf, more than dwarf, not even an ant, like a friggin' amoeba. Ripley explains, one day, lightning struck the village and started a fire. But when a branch gets old, the fire just never goes out. Oh, really? Oh, God. In order to ensure that it didn't spread to other branches, they had to cut it off, village included. Oh. But that could also explain how Adam Wood could get out. You have to cut off a branch because of a fire starting, and shoot the remnants of which could have maybe even end up in the sea, float off. People maybe patrolling around Elbaph, not getting in, but patrolling around it, grabs that up and sells it off on the black market. But you would have to really hope that something causes one of the branches to fall off, or they have to cut it off. Frankie says, boy, that had to be a real tough call to make. I guess even Adam can get old and decrepit. Ripley says, you might say that the vulnerabilities of Elbaph are fire and lightning, in fact. Luffy has fire powers. Zoro knows a little bit of the Foxfire style. Usopp has his Flame Bird. Sanji has Diablo Jambe. Frankie has his Fresh Fire. Nami makes lightning. Most of the Straw Hats have abilities like that. I mean, at least Jinbei controls water. Brook controls ice. And Chopper heals. So that could make up for most of that. But now I'm also thinking about the God's Knights. Do they have flame and lightning abilities? We then cut over to during the feast in the western village. Usopp seems to be drunk off his butt. Says, where have you been, Nami? I don't see Luffy or Zoro either. Nami says, probably exploring. Usopp says, okay. Nashi. And as Nami comes over to where Jarl is, or Jarl, Usopp says, Jarl, this is our genius navigator. Jarl says, what a beauty she is. Oh, Jarl's got good taste. Usopp says, hey, watch it, you old perv. Say, what's your ideal type of woman? Jarl says, bullshit. My favorite type? An older woman. Oh, God. And then Usopp jumps up and slaps the sword in Jarl's head, saying, that doesn't exist. You're the oldest person in the world. Jarl cries out in pain from the sword being struck. Oh, my God, Usopp, I need you to calm down a little bit. And the other giants cry out, Chief Jarl! Dory comes up saying, hey, don't touch Chief Jarl's sword, Usopp. Usopp says, no, you shut up, Dory. Is there no hero who will draw Excalibur from his sheath? Oh my God, Usopp. No. Oh God. I mean, there's been a lot of goodwill with the Straw Hats and the Giants, but I think killing Jarl, Frogie says, you better not. He'll die of blood loss. God. Meanwhile, Brook, who's also drunk off his butt, has his head placed on his crotch, saying, oh, hey, boy, he's really wasted. And Nami says, so are you. And Nami then goes over and sits next to Jinbei, saying, I can't blame him for getting carried away. It's been his lifelong dream to come to this place. Jinbei, who's probably just nursing that mug of ale, says, he seems to be having the time of his life. Meanwhile, Sanji looks around saying, wait a second. Where did Gerd get off to? Oh, where did she go? Suspicious. Oh, she's talking about Road. Oh, I didn't realize Road was that much taller than Gerd. Oh, right, Gerd is a doctor, so she's looking after the giant guards who were in the castle. They're ways away from the party, where Gerd telling Road compression fractures in the limbs. And this one seems to have been injured by something sharp. Okay, so Gunko used her abilities to pretty much squeeze the one dude into submission, while Shamrock probably used his Cerberus sword to stab the other person. Guard says, could this have been caused by some small but powerful human weapon? What happened? Explain it to me. These are the castle guards. That's not a good sign. Rose says, I swear, I was only going there for inspiration in fashioning the details of my block castle, when I noticed the shattered gates and the guards on the floor inside. Gerd, with a very cold look, says, you look awfully sweaty. Is it hot out today? Rose says, he then thinks to himself, I wish he'd stare at me forever. Oh God, Road, I swear. Gerd says, let's wake the guards up so I can hear what they have to say. Rose says, no, please give them plenty of rest. And as Gerd begins to walk off, she says, well, then I'll just have to report to Chief Jarl. Rose says, but why ruin such a feast. It wouldn't be right to bring unconfirmed fears to the village's attention when everyone is already in such a festive mood. Gerd turns to him, a very intense look in her eyes. Rode begins thinking to himself, we must wait until the ultra-rare straw hats return. They find out about this business with Loki. I'll be treated like an accomplice, and I've always wished we could release Loki and have him leave this island forever. Let him rampage elsewhere for all I care. Oh, okay. Huh. For some reason, I thought maybe Rode would be kind of down with Loki to some degree, but I guess not, huh? He then turns away, thinking to himself, there's just one thing that troubles me. I don't think it's right to ignore the report of an intruder who looks like red hair. With him not noticing Gerd coming up from behind with her axe, she beats Rode into the ground. She tells him, out with it already. Tell me what you're hiding. As Rose says, punish me. Oh boy. We then cut over to the underworld as Zoro's saying, hey Luffy, this doesn't match what you were saying. Luffy says, I knew something changed. Even the animals got messed up. You guys okay? Loki, what happened? Who did this to you? As they see the bloody mess that is Loki, Zoro says, this giant's huge. While Luffy says, talk to me, Loki. Oh, he's breathing. Okay, so he managed to survive, and he needs immediate medical attention. Zoro says, don't use the key yet. Something's wrong here, Luffy. As Luffy gets up to Loki's shackles, he says, look how hurt he is. He's not going to be able to cause any damage. Come on, Zoro, help me. But as Luffy gets onto one of the shackles, he immediately gets weak, saying, help me. Zoro says, so the cuffs are made of sea prism stone. And what's with the huge animals? Chill out, Luffy. Not yet. Luffy tells him, a giant is dying, man. We have to save him. Zoro says, that's not my problem, though. I've never talked to this guy, and I've only heard bad things about him. All I know is that if an oversized supergiant starts raising hell, it's going to be a major problem even for Elbaph. Zoro then gets onto Loki's body, saying, give me a second. And then he kicks Loki in the stomach. Luffy shouting, what are you doing, Zoro? But Loki wakes up and immediately cries out in pain as blood drops onto Zoro. He says, okay, so the injuries and blood are real. It doesn't seem to be acting. Loki says, what do you think? He just slumps over. Zoro, I swear to God, your bedside manner sucks, man. Luffy shouts, he died. Zoro says, if he's dead, then he wasn't meant to survive. And Luffy says, that's messed up, man. Zoro, I swear to God, you have been way too intense since your little near-death experience. Like, you are obsessed with death lately, man. But Zoro got to cut up a lot of people by this point in Wano, so I don't know. He was really ready to start cutting up people when he got to Elbaph. It's just like their bigs all bathe in their blood. Like, my God. Well, Zoro has the key now, and he says, here, we'll unlock the cuffs, but keep one of his legs still locked up with sea prism stone. If he wakes up again, we can talk to him. Actually, that's the smartest thing you've said so far, Zoro. Luffy says, all right, maybe I'll go call for Chopper. Zoro says, nah, it's too far to the library, though I'm pretty sure there was a doctor at the feast in the village. Oh yeah, Gerd. Also, will Gerd actually help? She seems to be, despite her feelings towards Rode, a little bit nicer to some of the outcasts, like Big Mom and stuff, so we'll see. Oh, okay, I see what's about to happen. Zoro says, if that's how they find out we freed Loki, though, we're gonna get kicked out of the country. Luffy says, if it happens, it happens. I'll go find the doctor. We'll need meat, too. Can't get better without food. Zoro says, you mean meat? You want meat? There's plenty of meat over there. And he motions to Loki's animal friends. Dude, that's messed up. Even Luffy, the meat-loving Luffy, says, don't ever say that again. They're my friends. I'll hunt some different ones in the mountains. And Zoro just says, meat is meat. You know what? Luffy and Zoro's interactions here, completely different than in Wano. They are on just two different sides of the program when it comes to this. Luffy says, no, those are friends, and you don't eat friends. It's good to really know where Luffy stands when it comes to calling Chopper emergency food. Zoro says, fine, fine, geez. Luffy gets ready to run off, saying, but the doctor comes first. You wait here. Zoro says, sure. But then he notices something up in the sky, saying, huh? What? As people on what's falling out of the sky says, we're doomed. Luffy is shocked as he sees the giant warrior pirates and I think Sanji just rocketing out from the upper layer. I think Rhodes says the island clouds will disappear down in the underworld. Oh, so they couldn't take the skiff normal. Oh, so that little skiff only works at a certain altitude. Harden says, all we need is a little bit of buoyancy before they vanish. Sanji shouts, don't worry, Gert, I'll save you. Stanton says, we don't have time to use the lift. Gert says, it's an emergency. Goldberg says, if Lucky gets free, it'll be hell unleashed. I think Rhodes says, it's not working though. We're going to crash and die. Harden says, I'm sorry, everyone, I made a mistake. That's the most Luffy thing he could possibly say. Oh, you know, Harden, you and Luffy are more on the same page than I thought. Between the whole King of the Giants thing and now this, a really bad call like this? Oh boy. But hey, the shortest route between 2 points. Goldberg says, we can't blame you. You were thinking of the fate of Elbaph. Oh, Rhodes says, goodbye, cruel world. Only for Luffy to inflate and catch them all, which really speaks to how much he inflated right there. Like, my God. Like, Luffy inflated enough to be as big as the whole lot of them. As he uses Gum Gum Balloon. Harden is overjoyed as it says Straw Hat. Luffy chuckles, only for him to launch the rest of the ship and everyone else away. Although Gerd, who kind of fell off, and then Sanji are there. So I guess they're alright. Oh god. I mean, they still hit pretty hard, but not as hard as they would have. A very injured Harden says, well, thanks anyway. Stanton says, we only got severely injured instead of dying immediately. Oh my god, that's so funny. I have to go to the bathroom real quick. Okay, one bathroom break later, because that was so much funnier than I was ready for. Oh man, that's some good One Piece stuff. Harden says, you're in such a panic. I'm glad we made it in time. Whatever you do, Straw Hat, don't free Loki. I think it's Gerd who says, we made Roto spill the beans. Rhodes says, I'm sorry, Ultra Rare Luffy. Harden says, you can't trust Loki. He's a cunning, cruel, vicious, backstabbing, and conniving villain. We've known Loki ever since we were children. If he told you anything that made him sound sympathetic, then he's lying. He's the kind of beast who will kill a so-called friend at a moment's notice. He's an enemy of the world. Luffy has that, like, I done effed up look on his face as Zoro says, well, it's too late. As Loki's chains rattle, Harden turns saying, huh? As Loki looms. Although, I mean, one foot is still bound. Man, you know, I thought we were past the point of actually just having someone look so imposing as they stand up, but my god, it's a fucking mountain. There's no other way to describe it. It's a friggin' mountain, man. The other giant warrior pirates say, Loki! Luffy says, what? I thought he was passed out. Loki grabs his... Is that a hammer? Looks like a hammer. Harden says, don't do it. Loki, take your hand off of Ragnar. Oh, Ragnar. Interesting. While Loki just grins. I don't buy into the idea of Loki being a bad guy. Too much has happened that made it feel like, that's definitely not the case. But I am interested in what's about to happen here. Because we've seen that, even Luffy with Sea's Prison Stone handcuffs on and kid, despite being weakened, that doesn't take away too much from the physical strength. So, all right, let's see how he stacks up. Even though he's weak, he's injured. Who knows how long it's been since he last ate? He probably doesn't smell very good, but the cold hopefully masks some of that. Because it's just like, how do you go to the bathroom and all that? Then again, if he only really drinks fluids, then it might not be too bad. All right, next chapter. I've been enjoying these chapters way too much. One Piece chapter 1142. What I'm afraid of. Ooh. See, I'm kind of scared of heights, but I also have a love of heights. Bugs. Really big bugs. Ooh, oh God. Just, ugh. But I don't freak out. It's more of just I'm good at masking a lot of my fear, so. But the cover story, Yamato coming in with that Thunder Bagua. One of the few things Yamato picked up from dear old dad. How to bait people with a club. Ogre Child Yamato's Golden Harvest, Surrogate Pilgrimage, Volume 28. Give back the sword and girls, Thunder Bagua. And who, just like that, who's who got clapped. Oh, the heck? Jormungandr. Huh. Why does it look different? Like it has this weird texture to it. The kids cry out, Teacher, 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 help us! Teacher! There's a huge snake in the schoolyard. It must be Jormungandr. It's a snake that brings an end to the week. Oh, can one of the God's Knights conjure your fears? Because it kind of almost looks like like it was colored in by a child. The kids rush away, saying, You mean Saturday? Saturday? You mean Saturday? What does that mean? While the other kids say, it's gonna eat us. Angie, as the, I guess, fake Jormungandr munches on the school, Angie's wielding a piece of plywood, saying, Everyone, run into the school. We cut to the faculty room at the Walrus School. Oh, was that not Angie? I guess it was someone else. We have the math teacher, Mr. Blade, saying, We got trouble, teachers. There's a really enormous snake out there. The language teacher and librarian, Miss Angie, says, A beast from the underworld? What is it doing here in the sun world? Oh, they would think it was just a beast from the underworld. Mr. Blade says, I only hope we can evacuate everyone in time. We have the Walrus School Principal Tusk, who, the fact that he looks like that, is he mixed with mink? I wonder, because we've had a lot of animal hybrid people in One Piece before. Would they be part mink? That'd be the only thing that could really explain it. Principal Tusk says, we should call the chiefs. And he says, but in the meantime, the children are in danger. And speaking of which, one of the kids cries out, Teacher, it's going to gobble Agar up. As Agar screams in terror as the Jormungandr looms. Oh, that's Principal Tusk. Yo! Principal coming in, getting it done as he rushes at the Jormungandr, wielding his mighty hammer. He just smacks it in the face. Gosh dang! And as the Jormungandr is staggered, here comes Saul from the top rope. Saying, sorry I'm late. Watch out, Tusk. Midterm X-Slam! Oh, I love it. And of course, because he's a previous vice admiral, he knows hockey. He knows armament and I think observation. So he just hockeys up his fist and midterm X-Slam! Just bam! Bashes it into the ground like it was nothing. Yo, actually getting to see Saul fight? That's cool. That's what's up. The kids all scream out, including Agar, who says, Huh? Principal Tusk? Mr. Saul? Okay, Tusk is a little differently shaped than what I thought he was in this little scene. But I get it. He's like cracking his back, saying, Oh, getting too old for this. Saying, oh, my back. Thanks for your help, Saul. Saul says, don't mention it. Where'd the snake come from, though? Man, those are some good-ass teachers. They know how to take care of the kids. The kids say, you used to be a warrior too, Mr. Principal? The rumors were true. Mr. Saul is super-duper strong. He was in the Navy, right? That was really cool. He dang right is. I love that Robin and Chopper are emerging from Saul's beard. Robin saying, there are monsters like this in the Sun World, Saul? Saul says, not really. They're more like the usual wild animals. Chopper says it's enormous. Huh. After they beat it up, it didn't really disappear. I wonder if it's kind of like something akin to Conjuro's ability. Saul says, sorry about the scare, children. Though the kids cry out, thank you, Mr. Saul. But suddenly there's a shriek. Someone cries out, Mr. Wolf. Chopper says, huh? What is it now? We cut to inside the school, and they say, huh? Mr. Wolf, what happened to you? As we see the gym teacher, Mr. Wolf, bloodied and on the floor. Oh, what the heck? Mr. Wolf says, forget about me. What about the children? I said, huh? I think one of the kids says, teacher, Ylva and the others wandered off somewhere. And I'm not sure who, but someone says, what? Where? One of the kids says, oh, hello. Are you friends of Luffy? Robin says, that's right. And the kid immediately skirts back. And Robin says, did Luffy do something to you? As Saul goes racing off, Mr. Wolf says, be careful, Mr. Saul. You mustn't touch the children. What? I mean, that's a general rule, but yeah, Saul kind of questions this. And as he heads out to the balcony, he says, which way do Ylva and them go? One of the kids say, that way, toward the beach. Another kid says, Mr. Saul, what happened to them? They fell asleep and wouldn't talk to us. Oh, fell asleep. So does one have the power of sleeping in dreams? And then I see Gunko's arrow leading the kid. Yeah, Robin says asleep. But you said they were walking. Kid says, yeah, they're all asleep and won't respond to us. Everyone's shocked. Principal Tuss says, come back. Where are you all going? Blow the horn. Warn the whole country. Saul says, not the whole country, Tuss. That's going overboard. Tuss says, this is an abnormal state of affairs, Saul. Look at the forest. And as Saul looks out, he's shocked. What does he see in the forest? Someone blows a warning horn. Oh, what the? Are they conjuring beasts from the kids' dreams? Or their nightmares? Yeah, what are you most afraid of, like the title said? So, but how does he affect people with this? Does the Kirin have the ability over dreams? I know of Kirin, but I don't know its abilities. If he even is a Kirin, killing him. Yeah, Saul, Chopper, and Robin are all stunned. Robin says, huh? Chopper says, what? There are monsters there. Robin says, where did they come from? Principal Tuss says, see? Abnormal, right? Someone calls out, Mr. Principal. Yeah, Angie says, the children are passing out. What's wrong, everyone? Hang in there. Saul says, what now? I just don't understand. Get up, kids. Robin is aghast as Chopper says, what's happening? Let me down there, Saul. I'll take a look at them. Saul says, please do. Thanks, please do. I'm at a loss. The first thing we should do is stop the children and get them to safety. Dang. But the one guy said, don't touch the children. What happens if you try to touch them? I mean, I get it. What happens is what happened to them, but gee, okay, it's getting intense. They cut back over to the underworld in Elbaph. Oh man, we got all the monster trio here facing off against Loki. God, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. As Loki now freed and really tall, like man, Iron doesn't even come up to his crotch. I mean, he barely comes up to his crotch. Loki, now wielding his hammer Ragnar, says, you thought that leaving one leg trapped in sea prism stone would contain the true extent of my power? That was foolish of you. If you want to save Elbaph, undo the final cuff now. You'll soon see if I'm really helpless or not in this condition. Harley calls out to Loki, while Loki says, hey! Sanji questions, what's his deal? While Loki just smiles, saying, better hurry up. If I keep landing blasts, eventually they'll hit something, and the fires will spread. You know what Elbaph is susceptible to, don't you? Fire and lightning. Wait, does he have some kind of electric-based ability? Wow, even in this state he can... For him to set off a blast that big that we can see from the island, that's insane. That's an insane amount of power. Loki lifts up his hammer Ragnar, infuses it with hockey, and it almost kind of looks like he's putting Conqueror's hockey into it. If I'm being honest, I don't know. And it would make sense if he's got Conqueror's hockey. But Harley calls out, stop it, Loki! But Loki does not stop it, and he strikes his hammer into the tree. Zoro Luffy and Sanji are aghast. So are the giant warrior pirates. Up in the clouds, there's a rumbling as lightning comes down from the heavens and strikes to where Loki hit, catching one of the branches on fire. In the village, someone says, "Was that thunder? There's fire on the south side of the island, Chijiaro. Did you hear a horn too? Anything but fire. You must put it out." We cut back to the walrus school, where Angie says, "Mr. Saul, Mr. Principal, I recognize those monsters." Principal Tuss says, "You do, Miss Angie?" Angie says, "It was earlier today. We have a flashback where one of the kids says, Loki has a huge hammer and he destroys the world." Now, okay, another kid says, "No, he doesn't. The one who destroys the world is Nika," as he holds up his picture. And one of the girls says, "Ew, he's scary." Now another kid says, "No, look, Loki is scarier." While another says, "No way, obviously the scariest thing of all is Fenrir, the giant wolf. Yeah, their fears. What scares them the most?" Angie says, "Don't step on your desk, children." Another child says it's ghosts. Another says the undead Dragar. Man, if you've played God of War Ragnarok. Another says storms. Another says Nidhogg, the lightning dragon. Another says Jormungandr. Another says my mom. I know that's right. And he says, "Is everybody finished?" Another kid says, "Teacher, if I have to think of so many scary things, I'm going to have nightmares tonight." And she says, "Sorry, Yelva. I'm happy to see so much personality and creativity in all these drawings and essays, though. You've all got so much imagination and expression." She's a good teacher. That's such a sweet thing to say. But back in present, she tells them, all of those things are what the children drew based on prompts of what they were afraid of. Miss Principal Tuss says, "But that's ridiculous." But as they look out to the nightmare scape of the children's dreams made manifest, Angie says, "These things are the visions of the world that terrifies the children most." Oof, I said to chill down my spine. Just, oh man. Visions of the world that terrify the children most. Man. So it was the Kieran looking dude. As Killingham says, "Okay, we're all ready to," and then he passes out. True. This dude, this is me in the world of One Piece constantly passing out. But how does this work? How does his ability work? What did he do that would affect the children specifically? How did he hone in on the children? How does he do it while asleep? I have so many questions about this dude's ability. It's wild that he can do all this, though. My God. I think Somer's still sitting in his friggin' chair. I mean, hey, you brought my chair. I might as well sit in it. Says, "Good job there, Killingham." Killingham wakes up for a moment saying, "The time limit is until the kids reach the ship. Do you think you can get them back?" Summers just laughing. "To know love is to wound one another. Say, Gunko, are you afraid of something?" And Gunko takes a moment and says, "Nika," much to the shock of the others. Afraid of Nika. Interesting. Hey, that's a crazy ability, though. Causing people to pass out. For a second, I thought he was controlling them too, but no, that's Gunko's ability, which is also crazy that she can do that. Can direct them to sleepwalk. Or maybe Killingham is causing them to sleepwalk and Gunko is directing them with their arrow. But, okay, Killingham can cause you to fall asleep, cause you to sleepwalk, cause your nightmares to become reality, and cause them to go on a rampage. But there's a time limit. I mean, even if there's a time limit, that's an insane amount of power. My God. And then there's something about if you try to touch them, you're attacked. Maybe you're attacked as their nightmares manifest out of their being. And then Loki, he was still able to use some ability. Or is it the ability of the hammer? Because I didn't seem to be more worried about Loki having the hammer. Can the hammer summon storms or lightning? And has such a specifically dangerous thing to all of Elbaph. My God. It's just one thing after another. Jeebus. And the knights are already a big enough problem, but Loki, with what he can do, he could bring ruin to all of Elbaph. And they were not kidding. Oh man, why would you have his hammer? Could they not get his hammer away from him? Like, dude, guys, that is not something he should have anywhere near his vicinity. Oh boy. All right, next chapter, and we have a beautiful color spread. One Piece, speed is a weapon. Okay. Based on reader request, a Straw Hat Crew car chase. But of course, cars don't really exist in this world, so we're on flying fish. Probably borrowed them from the flying fish riders. Vying for first place is Luffy by himself with Team Zoro and Chopper. In the next position is Nami by herself, and then followed by Sanji, mostly trying to get Nami a little snap. Behind them is Team Frankie with Frankie and Usopp. And behind that is, I guess, Team Robin with Robin and Brooke, Brooke's just playing the violin. And it looks like Robin already got a drink from Sanji, and in the water down below is Jinbei. He almost missed Jinbei down there. It's fun. I feel like this color spread is very indicative of the fact that Zoro and Luffy have been button heads a lot lately. Alright, we pick up with Saul making his way down to where the sleepwalking children are. As we see in the background, all the monsters made from their dreams just roaming about. Saul calls out, "Hey, wait, y'all! Ilva, Mag, Rhoda, wow, they're really sleepwalking. What's this white cloth? Where are y'all going?" He says, talking about the arrow directing them. Robin says, "Be careful, Saul. Remember, the other teacher said not to touch the children." Chopper then adds, "And he was all bloody." Saul says, "I know he did, but I don't see nothing wrong with them, and it's dangerous for them to keep walking like this." Saul reaches out his hand. "Oh, that must be Summer's ability. So it is thorns." A protective thorn barrier surrounds the children. Saul reaches out saying, "Come on, let's go get back to the school." Ugh! Saul falls over, having been pierced by the thorns around Roja. Or Ilva? I think Ilva. Chopper says, "What was that, Saul?" While Robin says, "What happened? Did something stab you?" We then have Angie radioing out. "Oh, to the village. This is the Walrus School. All the children have suddenly fallen asleep, and out of those, none of them have started walking. We don't know where they're going. Over in the western village, everyone's hearing the report." Angie saying, "It's not clear why or how this is happening." Dory says, "The kids at the school?" Brookie says, "Oh no, that's just random giants." "The kids at the school? My son's there too." Angie says, "There also been a surge of strange monsters from the forest." Another villager says, "Monsters? Are the children safe?" All the Straw Hats are standing next to the transponders. A transponder pill bug only works in Elbaph. Dang, it's huge. As Angie says, "Oh, the transponder doesn't seem to take on the appearance of the person talking, though." The children are traveling down branch route 8 at the moment. Nami questions, "And there's a fire too? What's with all this sudden danger?" And Jinbei says, "Did something happen at the school?" Someone then calls out, "Did you say branch 8? It's not looking good over there." The person notices a fire, although we see that everyone is, including Usopp and Brooke, are all drunk, as Ural says, "Oh no, that's the school where my granddaughter's granddaughter, Ilva, goes." Oh, wait, his granddaughter's granddaughter? So like great-great-granddaughter? So Ilva is, okay, related to Elder Jarl. While Usopp says, "How many generations is that?" Nami shouts, "I think you've all had enough to drink now." So Brooke chimes in, You should get it together." Oh God. Oh, is it the giant firefighters? Yeah, racing in on one of those sky dinghy or whatever's clanging like with the little bell and stuff. The giants call out, "Yes, that's quick work. The firefighting Svar is on the case. You've got this, firefighters. We're counting on you." Oh, but as they make their way over to where the fire is, one of the nightmares of the children, that's a Draugr, right? Comes out of the forest. They say, What's that? Huh?" Only for the Draugr, the nightmare, I guess I should say, to just smack him out of the sky. Oh man, everyone else freaks out. Just like, wait, what? Well, then again, they would really have no idea what the heck is going on. While Somers, who has eaten, oh, they're all eaten. Really? You're causing all this mayhem and also enjoying a light snack. Summers just laughs. You see how shocked those giants were when they got stabbed by the thorns? It's just like the famous saying, every love has its thorns. Gunko says, never heard of it. Summer says, yeah, you're so apathetic, Gunko. You know that? Love is the passion to reach out and squeeze someone tight, even as you see the thorns up close. This guy feels like the bad end of what Sanji could have turned out. But I guess it's Summer still saying, the best part of this game is when it's parents and children. Parents hug their kids tight, thorns and all. And then the kids scream and wail when they see their worst nightmare, mommy and daddy dying in agony. There's real emotion in killing, he says, reaching out his hand covered in thorns. St. Summers, thorn fruit, a thorn man. So he has eaten a devil fruit. Okay, because it's weird, because sometimes it's defined as a devil fruit, just outright. And then other things, no. Because the Cerberus wasn't defined as a devil fruit, and a lot of the powers of the Gorosei, or the Five Elders. But then you have Gunko defined as a devil fruit, Summers defined as a devil fruit, and maybe we're going to even see that Killingham is defined as a devil fruit. Not to mention, Killingham, how are you eating, man? Like, wait a minute. Are you just taking bites out of the side? Well, Summers says, death by love. Isn't that just so exciting? And Coco doesn't respond. Killingham crashes backwards, saying, no interest. The woman who never knew love. Never knew love. Killingham then speaks up, saying, which route did you choose, Gunko? Gunko says, there was a thick branch that ran down the middle. How was she eating through all those bandages? Wait a minute. We see the route goes from the Walrus School past the Owl Library into the Western Village. Oh, to the port. Okay. If they walk straight that way, they'll reach the village's sea clouds. Somers says, the middle one's good. Stands out better. Makes their utter futility all the more apparent. Terrible. Killingham then says, Summers, I need a bit more salt. Oh, is this how it works? Summers says, salt? He thinks of salt. Salt appears in his mind. Oh. Killingham's ability seems to put him to sleep. Killingham then reaches into Summers' dream and pulls out the salt. So it's not... That's kind of freaky. Saint Killingham. Dragon fruit. Mythical type. Model Kirin. So it is a Kirin, yeah. Because the art looks so much like depictions of Kirin that I've seen. Dream manifesting man. Manifest your dreams. Dang. As Killingham reaches into Summer's dream and says, ooh, a patch rock salt. Gourmet stuff. He then says, you can wake up now. And Summers does just that. See, that raises so many questions. The fact that he could even pull out something that you could actually ingest. Would it all be just about the taste? Or could you actually gain nutrition from something someone's dreaming of? So you think of a roasted turkey. Bam. Is that maybe how they got all this food here? Why? Summer says, what about the sleep tides you pulled out of those bright dreams? Sleep tides? Killingham says, I can keep them going at the same time, of course. Hey, this salt goes perfectly with the meal. I guess Summer says, I'll try some too. Oh no, I think it's Gunko saying that. I think it's Summers who says, Anyway, speaking of the giants' boats in the village, apparently they draw rainbows in the sky with those painted rocks. Gunko, tasting the salt, says, it's delicious. Summers says, real unique culture they've got. All we have to do is take one of those to return to the Holy Land. Or I think it's Killingham saying that. Summers says, we've basically won already. It's too easy. This is a baby game for babies. Baby game for babies. Killingham says, I'm very full now. All this and 0 calories. Oh, or is it Gunko saying that? Killingham says, well, it's dream food, so 0 energy too. Okay. So yeah, there's no nutrition behind. Okay, thank you for answering that. I was really kind of wondering. You get all the taste, like something out of a dream, but it doesn't really benefit you. There had to be some drawback. It's all about the physicality of it, but anything beyond that does not exist. And makes for a good weapon. Gunko then says, don't worry, Summers. There will be trouble. I saw a pirate ship moored on the sea clouds of the village. The Emperor of the Sea Straw Hat Luffy is here. Oh, so they do. I was wondering, but they do know Luffy is here. Dang. Somerson says, hey, huh? Wait, the kids are walking right towards the fire. And I think it's Gunku that says, see, you didn't expect this? Not to worry. If they die, we can send more. Oh my god. Y'all suck. But yeah, they didn't really plan for the fire. Loki did that. So, and it's just one thing just tumbling into another. Pretty much literally. Harridan says, damn you, Loki. Loki says, go on, Harridan. Try and stop. But no, you can't possibly stop me. You can't even lift right. All the giant warrior pirates are at the ready with their weapons. As Gerd says, I just hope no one gets hurt in the Sun World. But Loki says they will. The flames will only spread further. To make your choice, will you undo the last cuff and free me? Sanji then asks Luffy, who's this enormous giant anyway? Zoro doesn't respond, but Luffy says he was really badly injured, so I wanted to help him. But Loki then says, or will you all choose death? I'll only keep taking the lives of those weaklings in the Sun World if you don't answer me. The giant warrior pirates back off. As Harridan says, wait. All right. Loki smiles big. But Zoro says, don't get suckered in, Harridan. Harridan questions this as Luffy says, I guess I gotta do it. If he can move, I'll stop him. That was the deal. Harridan calls out, wait, Straw Hat. He'll electrocute you if you get too close. Luffy is Loki's natural enemy. Oh, man. Loki says, very well then. I hear your answer. And as he readies Ragnar, Gerd says, stop this, Loki. If you hit the children, there's no turning back. While Zoro says, make sure you go easy on him, Luffy, or his wounds will get worse. Luffy prepares a gum, and Loki immediately says, damn it, I've lost this one. As Luffy hits him with an arm balloon. Does he even touch him? It doesn't even really look like Luffy touches him. I mean, he was already so badly injured. Loki starts to wobble on his feet. Harridan and Rose say, huh? As Loki just face plants right then and there. Zoro says, he really was at death's door already. He was summoning all the strength he had left on a gamble. I think Stanton says if his bluff had worked, he would have escaped so that he could collapse somewhere in secret. It was a good plan. I just can't imagine that working based on the amount of blood he'd lost. Yeah, I can't figure out who's talking in this situation. Zoro says it's up to you whether to heal him or let him die, but Luffy says, I had business with Loki too, but it had to wait when I saw how bloody he was. Road adds, it is true that whoever attempted to kill Loki, it is a separate incident from the matter of his own crimes. Road then thinks to himself, I think I might know who it was. Hey, you think you know who tried to kill him? Is he just thinking it's the same person who was in the castle? Or does he have even more of an idea? Is there someone who regularly comes to try to kill Loki? Luffy says, please, Harridan, help him out a little. I don't want to let him die no matter who he is. Harridan thinks on this, and later we see that Gerd is tending to him, though he is now fully shackled down. And, those horns do come out of his head. It is weird to see those horns coming out of his head. It's funny, and I've been thinking about it, but, it's been said that, no, Stanson doesn't have actual horns. Because I was wondering, because it was said that in olden days, Vikings didn't have horns on their helmets. So I was thinking that maybe the horns are mostly there because whoever has them are actually part ancient giant. They have a lot of that in their blood. But some who wear them, that's more of a decoration thing. I mean, Banson doesn't have horns naturally. I was just thinking that maybe we were going to find out that Brogy actually has horns and that's not part of his helmet, but I don't know how much that's the case. Gerd says until he's fully healed, it'll probably take months. If you really want to see him recover, you shouldn't leave him in a place like this. But if he's taken to the village, it'll only lead to more calls for execution. They'll kill him. Someone asks, they hate him that much? Someone says he's an irredeemable scumbag. Luffy says, these horns turn out to be real, huh? Luffy says, sitting on Loki's horns. I think Harridan explains they're a holdover of his ancient giant blood. just like his father Harold. Or maybe that's Gerd talking. Harridan, as he looks down upon his younger brother, it really kind of clicked for a second there. They're like, all right, he's the older brother here. Harridan thinks back to when he and his brother were talking with his father. Harold saying, "You are my sons, and I love you both. I want you two to work together to support Elbaph after I'm gone." But then we cut to Loki utterly dominating the young Harridan, saying, "I can't believe this tiny weakling is supposed to be my big brother. You're just a bastard. You're not our father's legitimate son. You hear that, Harridan? Your mother had filthy blood in her veins." Oof. Brutal. Harridan then gets out his axe, and he gets ready to go for his brother's neck. Rose stops and saying, wait. Sansa saying, "Don't lose control, Harridan." But as Harridan is held back, he says, "I'll never forgive him for what he did. He insulted my mother and killed my father." Loki says, "Go on, do it, you sad little berserker. Or perhaps instead of indulging in your petty personal drama, take a look at the woods around us. They all say I went and killed Dad with pure murder in my heart. But you don't believe that, do you?" The way he says that, though, it doesn't seem like he's denying that he killed his father, but it's more that he had a reason. It has to be something to do with the world government, I think, because the Holy Knights appeared directly in the throne room. That has to mean something, right? Kind of like how Saturn appeared on Egghead. Or is there something more to that? What decides where one of those abyss pentagram thingies appear? But it's obvious that there's more to Loki killing his father. Maybe, who knows? But if he did do it, he had a reason. But that moment with Harold, he didn't seem like a bad guy. All right, and the last chapter of this volume. Chapter 1144, Time for Warriors. It's Ogre Chow Yamato's Golden Harvest Surrogate Pilgrimage, Volume 29. Minatomo, the Carpenter, and the girls are freed. They seem very happy to be freed. Looks like there was a tough fight, but Yamato and Tama managed to take down Who's Who's entire crew, even the sexy cat ladies. We pick up with Frankie and, oh man, I've actually forgotten her name. Ripley. There we go. Ripley. Frankie says, "Whoa, what is this?" Ripley says, "Well, what do you think it is?" It kind of looks like something out of Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, or even Laputa, Castle in the Sky. Ripley says it's been here for ages. Frankie says, "It looks like pure science to me." Ripley says, "See, I figured a mechanical man like you would enjoy it more than anyone else." Frankie says, "What's a facility like this doing in the Kingdom of Warriors?" But we see that Lilith and Bonnie are there. Lilith saying, "Hey, up here, Frankie. I'm glad you found this place. I was going to tell you about it later." Bonnie says, "It's really cool inside, Frankie." Frankie says, "Lilith, Bonnie, what are you two doing here?" Lilith says, "We got lost." Well, Bonnie says, "Thank you for finding us." Freaking crying. Or Frankie says, "Even a genius can be bad at directions, I guess." See, that makes me feel a lot less bad about how directionally challenged I can be. Ripley says, "I'm glad we ran across you then. I've been hearing alarms in the distance, so there's probably danger in the woods." Lilith says, "Anyway, listen to this. I can hardly believe this place. By my estimation, this building stood here for at least 3 millennia. 3 million years. Dang." See, that's the thing. When I first heard that there was some kind of apocalyptic event, it's just like, but there's not a lot left over from that. We've seen stuff that would tie into like surviving one apocalypse, but then it's just like there had to be something else that shifted things even more than before. So 3 different kinds of events during a technological age would kind of explain a lot of things. Man, I can't wait to find out more about those 3 different ages. Frankie says, "What? Don't lie to me. Do you realize how ancient that makes it?" Ripley says, "I can't say she's wrong, though. Even in Elbaph, we have no record of what this building is." Ripley, you have been a joy to have on this little excursion. Oh. Lil says, "That just makes it all the more worth studying. I think I'll settle down and live here." Frankie says, "You sure you won't get lost? Anyway, let me check out the inside too. But suddenly Bonnie screams. Frankie says, what's the matter, Bonnie? And Bonnie says, behind you, there's something creepy. As what I'm afraid of, lightning, appears behind them, grinning an evil grin. Frankie says, oh, Elbaph, land of mystery and wonder. So Ripley says, no, this isn't natural. I don't know what that is. Like, no, that is not normal. We then cut back over to the Western Village, and I was right, it is a Droger. What I'm afraid of, the Droger. As the people in the village have the looming skeleton over them, the warriors say, sober up and grab your weapons. The firefighting spar is down. That looks like a Droger to me. It's a damn zombie. Another person says, is this related to the children's daydream somehow? What's going on? Where are the captains? Someone needs to take command. They drank too much and they had to rush to the bathroom. Oh, Tori and Brookie, no. They had to take a wicked leak. They say, what? Brooke says, that looks awfully familiar. Is it an enormous me? Yeah, right. A giant says, quick, take the visitors away from the village. Ready? I'm going to move the whole desk. Usopp says, wait, hold on. Don't treat us like with kid gloves. We want to fight too. Huh. Dang, Usopp. Even Jimmy says, like, you said that awful quiet. Oh, no, that little last part. Okay, I get it. Whatever this is, it doesn't seem like business as usual for Elbaph. Nami seems to be, thinking something. While someone else says, no, Cullen, you can't. Cullen says, why? Why not? I'm a warrior too. I want to fight. Oh, the person says, of course you can't. Cullen says, but I'm the son of Gabon. Well, the person says, exactly, you're not Gabon. See, I actually like that. It's just like, yeah, you're his son. You're not him. Shoo, kid. This is not a hiccup situation like in How to Train Your Dragon. It's like, just because your dad's great means you're great. It's just like, no. We don't do that here. Sometimes that's how that works out. Not all the time. And the person just kind of pushes back Cullen as the giants are moving the table with the straw hats on it. Nami calls out, hey, Jarl! Jarl says, huh? What is it, girl? Nami says, there's something we need to tell you about. I'm sorry we didn't bring it up earlier. Uh-oh. Jarl says, an intruder who looks like red hair in the castle? Nami says, yes, sir. The pair were incredibly strong. Oh, no, they're talking to the guards. Yes, sir, the pair were incredibly strong. One of them used strange powers. Jinbei says, the quickest answer to most mysteries in this world is a devil fruit of some kind. Thank you, Jinbei. There's too many times where people are just like, what could it be? It's a devil fruit. It's almost always a devil fruit. The only time it usually isn't is if it's like Django's hypnotism, or Django's hypnotism, Brooke's hypnotism, Miss Goldenweek's hypnotism. There's a lot of people with hypnotic powers in this series. Shoot, even Lafitte has hypnotizing abilities. Is there some kind of connection to all that? I wonder. Jinbei says, if these phenomena are unfamiliar to you, then there's a good chance that these folks are behind it all. Jarl says to his men, inform the entire country that 2 humans unrelated to the Straw Hat crew have infiltrated. Tell me as soon as they're found. See, I like that we're finally in a situation where the Straw Hats aren't being blamed for everything, even though the Straw Hats are kind of to blame for the fire that was started because we freed Loki. just saying. The guard says he got a chief as he rushes off. Brooke says, do you really think there are just 2 of them, causing all these strange phenomena? Perhaps we should expect more. Jarl says, at least 2. You got it. Nami then tells the others, I don't know who these people are, but if they're abducting children in broad daylight, they're despicable. We have to stop them. See, Nami's locked in because she heard, children in danger, not on my watch. No, Mommy Nami has gone into Mama Bear mode. There we go. Usopp says, what are they gonna demand from Elbaph once they've got the kids held hostage? Again, I love this because everyone is immediately locking in onto what the situation is at hand. I've never heard of an abduction like this. Jarl says, it will not come to pass. I think it's Jinbei who says, we'll help too. Just give us a ship and someone to move us around. Jarl says, nonsense, you are our guests. Stay in hiding where it's safe. Others say, but wait. Now, where are Dory and Brogy? They're still in the bathroom, Chief. He all says, bunch of lightweights. Can't hold their liquor. So I guess as everyone else has left, Jinbei says, if the targets are human-sized, we'll have an easier time looking for them. Usopp says, yeah, exactly. Let the big guys fight the big guys. We'll search for the intruders. Brook says, the problem is that Elbaph is too huge for us to cover. But Nami notices Cullen taking a bag full of weapons to a spar. Cullen notices them watching him. He comes over saying, huh? You're not going to stop me? You want to ride with me? Okay, then I'm the captain. Cullen, somehow you've been involved into this situation. And he full on has a wooden sword. Oh my god, Cullen. Nami thinks to herself, that's so adorable. And so they set off on the spar. Cullen saying, and we're off. Man the oars, Cullen pirates, onward. Usopp says, you're the biggest one here, you do the rowing. Cullen is fun. I guess there's an announcement ringing out, saying in a message to all the Sun World, humans unrelated to the Straw Hat crew have been spotted at Aras Castle. They have demonstrated overt hostility and are considered, is it a tone dial? Yeah, she's listening to music. Oh my god. Oh no, you're kidding me. Summer says, it's Gunko's post-meal ritual. Gunko says, it is not a ritual. I just like doing it. Summer says, TDs, huh? Tone dials. I prefer listening to live musical performance, and whoever flubs the note first, bang. Yeah, Summers, you are a celestial dragon, all right. I think it's killing him, says, but it's nice to have a hobby you can carry around with you. What's that song you like so much? Gunko says, New World. Go the New World. Go the New World. Go the New World. Da, 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 da. I can understand why she would be jamming out to that. Oh my god, she's gonna mate Brook. You know what? That's something that really hasn't been brought up too often. It was only ever really a thing when it came to Sabaody, the return to Sabaody. And that's Brook having fans. But they mentioned his TDs, his tone dials being sold all around. This is like the first time we've really encountered a situation like that. Summer says, what, you got a problem with the one we already live in? That's like an old man to immediately criticize as a joke. Helium says, don't make fun of what other people's like, Summers, which is so weird to hear from another celestial dragon. Summer says, oh, yeah, sorry about that. But hey, look, the adults are trying their hardest to save the kids. Oh god. Poor Saul. Okay, so now Saul has some shields and he's in front of the kids. He says, there, that should keep me safe. Now I'm gonna stop them cold. Chopper and Robin say, good luck, Saul. And Saul says, I can tell y'all are just following this stationary cloth thingy. So it just looks like cloth floating in the air. That is wild. So I guess, yeah, it did kind of look like bandages originally that Gunko was firing out. And this cloth is heading right for the fire. You're gonna die if you keep going forward. So I'm gonna stop you. There, she stops. But as Yuva hits the shield and stops, the kid behind her bumps in, and, thorns, they start kind of crashing into each other. Saul panics and backs away, saying, no, I'm sorry, Yuva. Scaldy, you okay back there, Olav? What a disaster. You thought one and the others damage each other with the spikes. Robin says, this is awful. It's sadistic. So, I think our only option is to search for whoever's powers these are. I think Chopper says, do we even know if they're nearby? Saul says, but the kids are going to throw themselves into the fire while we search. I gotta try everything I can. Good on you, Saul. As his cowboy inspiration takes hold and he lassos him a kid, which sounds absolutely terrible, but it seems to work. You know, he managed to avoid the spikes. If we can't stop him from the front, we'll start with Bjorn in the back. There, I got him loose from the line. Now if we just peel him off one at a time, but then Saul seems to notice something. Of course. The moment he finds an easy way to stop all of this, one of the nightmare monsters appears. What I'm afraid of? Fenrir, a nightmare wolf. Saul says, huh? Are they working together somehow? Who's controlling this thing and from where? And Chopper just freaks out at the sight of the monster. Meanwhile, back at the Walrus School, Angie says, Mr. Principal, it's not just the Western Village, other villages reporting back about similar monsters. Principal Tuss says, "This is happening all over Elbaph? It seems clear that these are devil fruit powers at work. We must identify the culprits." Angie says, "Agreed." Again, love that they're genre savvy enough to be like, devil fruit powers. It's like, yep, thank you. We're so far into the friggin' new world. It's like, yes, assume it's devil fruit powers. It's usually devil fruit powers. We then cut to outside the western village, where it seems like the warriors have brought down a droger, but not without some casualties. Ugh. I say, there we go. Drogers aren't actually supposed to exist, though. Look how much trouble it was just to stop one of these things. Get the wounded to the village, only for a giant dragon to come in blasting lightning. Another warrior says, "Nidhogg. What I'm afraid of? Nidhogg. What I'm afraid of? Ghosts." As the warriors say, it's no use. There are just too many monsters. We can't protect the village. Flee for your lives. Oh, but we see two familiar pairs of weaponry. As Brogy says, "It's our turn, Dory." As Dory says, "Indeed, Brogy." They use Hokoku sovereignty. Oh, man, and just firing that off. Oh, man. We went from seeing that all the way back in Little Garden as this one big massive attack to seeing it, a couple times, once a year now. The giants call out, "Yes, the captains," as they manage to blast back the Nidhogg, the ghost, and another. Brogy says, "Sorry for taking so long. We had to puke up all we drank. Such a shame." Oh, God. Dory says, "We'll exterminate all these monsters. You folks help the children." As they coming in, flying on the Great Eric. It's the Great Eric! Svar edition! Nice. You're gonna get it now, all you monsters. Why do you... Oh, but Scopper is on there, too, saying, "Why do you bother to sober up?" As the others say, "What? Look, it's Mr. Ya, the Mountain Eater. This ship is unstoppable." Well, yeah, of course Scopper got involved. His kid is in danger, which Scopper continues to be one of the best dads in the universe, because he's just like, "What? My kid's in danger? Not on my watch." Good stuff. So many cool things happen in all these chapters. My God. One Piece is just really killing it in Elbaph. Scopper Gabon's introduction and just seeing how he handled Luffy and Zoro. Though I think he mostly stopped because he's just like, I'm not trying to get that serious. His future sight said, "Oh no, they're about to lock in. I ain't about that. I'm just having some fun." But the fact that Zoro and Luffy just really ended up not liking him so much. Like, dang. But the appearance of more of the God's Knights, Summers and killing him. Man, Summers' ability is interesting enough, but killing him, oh my God, this is the real terror here. Like, killing him feels like the biggest danger here with his abilities. But finding out about the Abyss transportation system is like, there's so much you can't really control about it all. So I guess maybe only the Gorosair, the Five Elders, have more control over it, I feel. And then Sanji joining up with the team to see about the whole Loki situation. I thought maybe because we had the monster trio there, maybe it'd be Loki facing off against Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy, but not really so much the case. With the abilities we've seen for those who, the Five Elders were older than they look. So when Elder Jarl talked about an older woman, technically I guess that would be Gunko, depending on how old she actually is. And Loki was pretty intimidating there for a moment, but was that lightning strike the power of the Hammer Ragnar? I wonder. And what's his Devil Fruit ability? What can Loki do exactly? And then Loki's implication that there was more to the death of King Harold. There had to be. That much was kind of obvious. You're really driving too far in that Loki is terrible, and then Loki doesn't really feel like a terrible person. But we're really trying our hardest to keep those kids safe, but with what Loki did, just put those kids in danger, and the God's Knights aren't making it any better. I just want to know what happened to King Harold, because in that little flash it didn't seem like he was a bad person, and I don't think Hyruddin, I kind of trust Hyruddin's memories of his father. I don't think he was a bad person. He loved both of his sons, and he knew one day he would die. And it's like he accepted it. But it's like he wanted his sons to work together. And Gunko being a fan of Brooke. Jeez, man, the story's coming full speed ahead. And then Colin getting involved in the adventure, and I wonder how much danger he'll actually end up being involved in, though. We'll see. Because you gotta give a reason for Skrrt to fully get invested, but then again, his son might be held hostage against him. That keeps him from really going all out. I am interested to see Dory and Brogy fight more. And shoot, went from only ever seeing them in Little Garden to actually seeing them up against God's Knights. We'll see how it goes, but I'm really interested in what happens next. How do we deal with this? And the God's Knights, even if they're not like stupid powerful, their abilities are just insane. Just insanity. I'm interested to see how we manage to counter this, because it ain't looking great. It is not looking great, but we'll see. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din and hope to see you later. So then take care. Bye-bye.